Hello, Roger.
Hello, Alex. How you doing? Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Great Convos, where we always say, whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great combos. I'm Roger Caesar, and that gentleman over there, he is...
I'm Alexandre Matt. Sorry, I was just putting my puppy on this jacket. It was somewhere else before my other shirt. Why are we wearing puppies, Roger?
Well, today here in Canada, we celebrate Remembrance Day, and a moment where we think back to those who have given themselves, their lives, and their time and their efforts to making this country great. And we take a moment to understand who they are, the value of them to this country. And for me, I've had members of my family who were a part of the armed forces, both here and in the US. And I know how much that they have given and the time and their efforts to make sure that this country is safe, along with many other greats along the way. What about you, Alex?
Well, yeah, today, November 11, the date is special because on November 11, 1918 is when the armistice was signed to put an end to the First World War. I think we called it the Great War.
Yep.
We didn't know there was going to be another World War. And it was on November 11 at 11 a.m. Usually I go to the local commemoration or ceremony here. I wasn't able to make it, so I watched the ceremony live from Toronto, where they inaugurated a new wall. They call it the Veterans Memorial Wall. And of course, these ceremonies are so solemn, and it really puts things into perspective.
Of course.
Last year, when I was at the ceremony, I went up after the ceremony. I went to meet one veteran, and he told me, "Thank you for being here." And I'm like, "Why are you thanking me? I should thank you for my freedom to be here." And he said, "Well, that's why we do it, in order for you to be free."
Yeah.
So thank you.
Shout out to everyone.
Thank you to the veterans, and let's remember those who gave everything so that we can be here.
That's right. That's right. And we also want to thank everyone who is joining us today. We've always said, and we'll say it again, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. And for the next 20-25 minutes, we hope that you enjoy what we are about to talk about. And thank you for participating in the chat. Please put your comments there. Alex, well, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, Roger, our title is Times Are Changing, a look into the U.S. presidential elections, because we've had a historical election in the United States just this past week. Historical for various reasons. Let's just say one of them is the swing states, the 7 swing states, of which I can go either one way or the other way. They all went the same way this time, which is, I think it's the first time since 1984 that this has happened. It's also the first time since 1984 that there's been such an important win from the Republican side. So and we can also mention, even before the day of the election, so many historical things have happened, including having a new candidate just 1 week before confirming the choice of Harris. So Roger, with all that said, what's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is simply this. And again, to our loyal listeners, please put your comments in the chat as well. We'd love to hear from you. on your reactions, but mine was mixed, I'd say. While I wanted and was hoping to see maybe a different result, at the same time, I would say that I was not surprised. And I think from the perspective that I knew that Trump had a lot of momentum with him. And even though I was saying, oh gosh, well, let's see how this goes, how it will play out. And again, I want to be very clear to everyone. This is just our opinions. We don't want it to be a situation where we have negative comments in the chat or anything like that. But I was just simply saying, like, even when we talked about it last week, where you just hope that regardless of the outcome, that everyone would understand that, hey, we are all human. We all have our own views, our own opinions, but that we all still can come out at the end of it all and work together so that positive outcomes come out of it. And that's what it was for me. I literally said, okay, well, I woke up that morning saying, okay, let's see what he's able to do. How about
Right.
yourself?
And that's a very positive comment that I've not heard very much from people who were not supporters of Trump, to say it lightly. The first real positive comment that I saw from a Harris voter, I saw it this morning. And of course, the algorithm encourages us to be exposed to mostly negative views. So it was very refreshing for me to see this one view where someone said, well, I voted for Kamala Harris, but I hope, and I'm not sure you use the word pray, but I wish that Trump will do the right thing for us. And I think that's the right attitude to have.
Yeah.
And on regards of unity, and this is the title that I gave myself, the unity guy, we'll touch on that at the very end of this episode when we touch on and watch some clips from both candidates' speeches after the election.
Yeah. Well, how did you feel? What was your reaction?
Well, I wasn't very surprised. I thought it was going to be closer. I wasn't expecting such a big win, but I think like you, I saw the trends, not just in polls that we were seeing, but on just listening to people. And this is what I'm going to encourage everyone to do. Listen to people who voted for the other candidate, because that's the only way that you'll know why they voted. So there's an interesting reaction from one of our viewers. Was the reaction horrified, very concerned about the environment and Trump's determination to not take the action needed now? So this is someone mentioning specifically one issue, in the environment. There are multiple other issues where someone who is not a Trump supporter would be very upset. So why don't we touch on the following question? I'm even going to write it here. Why did Trump win? And this is where listening to people really helps to understand, because what we might hear from one side is, oh, Trump is so brash, he's so this, he's a criminal, he's unhinged, we don't know what's going to happen. Why would you vote for that person? There are reasons. Roger, do you want to give one of them?
You came up with 6 of them. And let's we're both in agreement with regards to the ones that you have, and then we'll just discuss it briefly. So why don't you just first of all say them for our listeners, and then we'll just talk about it from the perspective.
Okay. So you want me to say these 6 reasons with no interruption?
Real quickly.
All right. Okay. Whew. Watch out. 1, sincerity. Stay with me here. 2, the insults to voters by the other camp. 3, the presidency, the first presidency of Trump. Number 4, all the legal stuff. And number 5, the coalitions on Trump's side, I think, were more powerful. And you mentioned 6, so I'll have to mention the 6th one: the Biden presidency and his gaffes.
So let's touch on that one. The
All
first one
right.
about sincerity
Yes.
on that subject. Uh, we both said that here's two vastly different candidates in how they spoke, in how they interacted with the public. One seemed very strategic in how she portrayed herself. Her answers were very similar to many of her encounters with the public or with the press. And yet you had another one in Trump where very reactionary. Whatever was being talked about in that moment, he reacted, and it almost felt like it was on emotion. And yes, there might have
Mm,
been a part of that that was deliberate, but it was mainly him reacting and never finishing sentences. That was the other thing we talked about. Never finishing a full sentence, just kind of going into one thing and then jumping to something else.
mhm.
So there was two different sides, but between the two of us, we were saying that sometimes that's what people wanted, was to see that reaction that felt like in that moment, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I want to do. And maybe that was a part of that swing.
Right. Because whether you like him or not, Trump says what he thinks when he thinks it, and he acts like a insert whatever word you want, but that's who he is. So if you can ask yourself, and we as public speakers, we want to be the same on stage as we are off stage.
Off stage, yeah.
And I think that's what we saw in the president-elect.
Yeah.
What was number two? Did I say insults to voters? So this is something that happened also in 2016 when Clinton started mentioning, started bad-mouthing the supporters of Trump. This is a huge political mistake, and I'm surprised that the Democrats did this again this year. You want to insult your political opponent? Okay, that's fair game. But to start insulting the American citizens that don't agree with you, that's a huge mistake. So I think Clinton had said the deplorables, right? Anybody who votes for Trump are deplorables. And maybe she wasn't talking about every Trump voter, but that's how it came across. Right. And this is what happened also. I mean, the biggest example is, it's not from Harris, it's from Biden, when he said the supporters of Trump are garbage. Whether he was meaning exactly one supporter or all of them is unclear. Right. But that's how it came across. So, politicians have to be very careful in what they...
And it's all it takes is just a few words to completely change the narrative of how someone sees you, right? And this is what the whole idea in the game behind politics is, how you present yourself. And just the simplest thing can change everybody's view of you right away.
So imagine you're on the fence. I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for Trump or for Harris. I've got good reasons to vote for one or the other. And then someone says, if you vote for Trump, you're garbage. It's like, what? Really? I'll show you.
Yeah. Yeah. So
next one?
That's, yeah, please, the next one.
The presidency and the record of Trump. Again, whether you agree or disagree, and we can discuss this for a full hour, and people have done it. I think that if you're an American citizen, you can just look at, okay, how was my life under the presidency of Trump, and how is my life now under the presidency of Biden and Harris, because she was the vice president. And you can see, okay, my groceries cost almost double. There are more wars now than there were before. Okay, I think I'm going to go back to how it was.
But there was also extenuating factors. We had COVID and all the things that happened in between there. I mean,
of course,
there's a little there's a bit of a difference for that matter, right? And I'm not saying right or wrong, but I'm saying we have to take that into consideration, that we went through the things that we went through this last 4 years.
And so I believe most voters will consider all these factors. But again, if you're undecided and you're at the ballot box and still not sure, am I going to vote for this person or for this person?
Right.
What's the expression? You vote for the devil you know.
Oh, yes.
We had 4 years of Trump presidency, and my life is not over during that time. Now with 4 years of the next guy, my life is worse off. So whether it whatever fault it is, it's hard to ignore the fact that that's how voters will interpret this.
Can we also say, and we've talked about this as well, that during his presidency before, he established himself as a no nonsense type of individual. He was no longer the celebrity or the reality guy. He came in and showed that he was not taking anything from anyone, and then he established himself as that guy. So when I say that, in his debate, there was one of those moments where he started attacking all of the different leaders of the world and saying, hey, look, if I was in charge, these things would have never happened with any of them. Does that, and let me ask you this, does that play as a negative to him now that he is back in? Would that possibly be negative in terms of the relationships that he will have with them?
Right. It's difficult to insult someone and then try to shake their hand after.
Right.
Well, that's a very good question, and I have no answer, honestly. I can only imagine that I've never been in that sort of position of trying to act tough when you're in your country, but then show your hand when you're in the other country. It's tough to know what's going to happen, but I can only hope that that balance will be struck, that the president will be able to strike the balance between acting tough and still handing what do you call it, an olive branch to world leaders. Like there's the carrot and the stick, right?
Right.
Like don't mess with us and we won't mess with you, sort of thing.
Right. Do you think that was also a factor, a main factor? Would we, and we talked about this as well. I feel that because America has always lived up to, we are a strong nation, we don't back down. Having a person like Trump in the presidency, could that also have played a factor in why he ended up ultimately winning it?
Yeah,
because of that narrative.
Yeah, if Americans are looking for a tough guy who, as you say, no nonsense, like we're not taking any crap from any other country, like and the feeling of America first, that sort of thing. Certainly, that you look at both candidates, and Trump incarnates that feeling more than Harris.
Right.
So
somebody here said this. They think that he's a bully, and
yeah,
many would say just that as well.
Well, he does has every criteria of what a bully is. Yeah, absolutely. Including, this is interesting, including after you've insulted someone, you try to make them your friend again.
Yeah.
Bullies in the schoolyard, that's what they do. They'll be all nice to you until they decide to be mean to you, and then when it helps them, they're nice to you.
Yeah.
So let's hope that it goes well that it works well. Okay.
It's tough. It's tough to. It's really hard to imagine that. Will it be as easy for him as his first time around, and saying those comments and stuff like that? Now, again, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous only from the perspective that I think that a lot of the things that were said throughout this presidential elections, I'm hoping will not come back to bite him in the you-know-what.
Right.
Right.
I think there were two more things that we can touch on really quickly if you wanted.
Sure, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, this is what happens. We just get going.
So one of the things was the coalitions. Now I won't go into details, but what's interesting is that a lot of Democrats, including elected representatives, either left the party or mentioned, I'm going to go with Trump. Same thing happened on the other side. But I do believe that Trump had the advantage here, including Tulsi Gabbard and what is it, RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, for whatever we think of one or the other, the truth is one was a presidential candidate for the Democrats, Tulsi Gabbard, and the other one was also before becoming independent and then joining the Republicans. So it's a great success story for Donald Trump. And I think the last thing is, so this is the legal stuff. Now, Trump has been accused and or named officially guilty of many, many things, and yet he's still standing. This is, like, we're talking of historical things here. This is amazing.
And this is where I would get confused. Like, how could this happen if, you know, in any other part of life, yes, we would hope that everyone gets a second chance, and we know this, but this is one of the most powerful positions in the world to hold. And with all that, the controversy behind him, how did this happen?
Because Trump has the image of someone who is relentlessly attacked by the other side for all sorts of reasons. There are some, I mean, if you look just legally speaking, some of those legal cases were successful against Trump, and some were unsuccessful. So Trump can say, look at what all they're throwing against me, and I'm not guilty of most of them. They're attacking me because of who I am, because of who you are, because you want your country to be better. So the messaging is perfect for Trump. I think it was a huge mistake for the opposing side to throw everything at him. And this includes, I mean, I said legal stuff, but really it could be just all the attacks, including assassination attempts.
Right.
So while it's not
turn people onto his side.
Yeah, and like, this is not a mistake by the Democrats. It's not like the Democrats said, okay, we're going to assassinate him. It might be just one person. Maybe it's, I mean, I won't even go into it.
Right.
Whoever is behind it, even if it's just one person, that shows that I survived an assassination attempt. It shows how people are willing to go that far just so that you can't vote for the person that you prefer. Again, it's all in the messaging, and that helped him certainly.
Yeah, we have a few comments here. Yeah, right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, this one, someone who says the victim status gets him the sympathy vote.
Sympathy votes,
but it's so manipulative. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Could be, but it worked.
It worked, exactly.
It worked. Right.
So,
man, we could go on and on about this, and I'm sure that if we had the time, we would, or we can. And Jesus,
you
got 2 videos. You want to play the videos?
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. We've got so much that we want to say, and we've been careful about it. And
well, because of our background and what we do, we want to look at. But this is also. We want to look at the victory speech by Trump and the concession speech by Harris. So we've only got about 1 minute each, but I want to mention how different they are in their approach. Where Harris looks at the teleprompter and he has a very well polished, well written speech. I mean, she had the whole day to think about it. And Trump here goes off teleprompter, as he does all the time, and it drives me nuts. As you said, he doesn't finish a sentence. So here's an example of him looking at the teleprompter, but then going off it. It will be very clear. We can even see, if you're looking at the video here, on the corners, those are the teleprompters. So when he's looking over there, or on the other side, he's looking at the teleprompter.
For democracy and for freedom. Together we're going to
Apologies if the volume is low.
Destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future
on teleprompter.
For our people. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a rally
off
again.
teleprompter.
Can you believe it?
Off teleprompter.
I think we've done 900
and he talks about
approximately
30 more seconds, just about that last experience.
And it was sad. Everybody was sad.
And then he's going to go
People
back on the
said, this is our
teleprompter.
last rally. But now we're going on to something that's far more important, because the rallies were used for us to be put in this position where we can really help our country. That's what we're going to do.
Right here.
We're going to make our country better than it ever has been.
Also notice how his tone changes when he's reading rather than when he's just off the teleprompter. Now let's look at the end of his speech. I liked it, and Harris will have a similar message.
Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again. And I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in this noble and righteous endeavor. That's what it is. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try. We're going to try. We have to try. And it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that.
So at least there's that message of unity at the end, which is positive.
This is a comment right here. He's spinning such lies and breaks my heart.
Right.
It's hard, watch, really hard.
Let's watch Harris here, who concedes the election, or concedes the victory.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
I'm going to skip ahead, and she meant, by the way, she says the word fight about 19 times, that the fight must continue. So we will wage this fight, and so this is where she continues.
And we will also wage it in quieter ways.
Yep.
In how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight. And so to everyone who is watching,
there's the unity message.
This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves.
That was a good line, by the way. Yeah. So at least we see both presidential candidates looking to a brighter future. I mean,
bringing people together.
That's
hopefully.
Right. Now, notwithstanding what this user mentions, that Trump might have been a major player in the last 4 years of division within the country, just as Roger, honestly, I think on both sides there's so much division, whereas unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, the voices that we hear most often are those that are most combative, and that's unfortunate. I think there's a big vacuum, and there's room for the, what we call it, the silent majority, to be less silent and just say, let's, as Harris said, roll up our sleeves together, whether we are a Democrat, whether we are a Republican, whether we voted for this one or that one, to work together. Right. I have hope in the American people that they will not depend on the presidency or on their government to make their country better. You can do it yourself.
That's right. Yeah. This is an opportunity for Americans in general to come together. It's been tough all around with everything that has happened within the last 4 to 5 years. But it is an opportunity, regardless of how you feel, regardless of the position you hold, to bring together and be united as one, and to bring the country, and in terms of even the world, to a bigger and brighter place. It's not going to be easy. No matter how you feel about what has taken place, it will not be easy, but it is an opportunity for each and every one of us, whether you are in the States or abroad, to come together and try to make this reality come true of unity and prosperity. Whether it happens or not, let's try to go in that right direction.
Thank you so much, Roger. We'll have our final words in a few seconds, but before we do, let's just touch on the next week's subject, shall we? You named yourself the change guy because you said change is inevitable. But what else do we change all the time that is inevitable? It is the fact that we change the clocks here every 6 months or so. Twice a year, we change the clocks back, we change the clocks forward, and it's not the same thing for every province, and every country doesn't do it at the same time, and other countries don't do it at all. This is also confusing. Let's stop this. You agree?
This is going to be a fun-filled episode next week. Please come out. We've been having some very serious conversations lately. This one we're going to have a little fun with. Alex and I are going to duke it out next week about time changes. All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the comments that you put into the chat. We appreciate your participation in the conversation. And as always, as we always say, whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great convos. Play safe, everyone, and keep the conversations going.
Bye-bye, everyone. See you.